name's Jessica Cronin, and today I'm going to share with you something that I've never shared publicly and something that I've rarely shared privately. 6 years ago, around this time, a man tricked me and my friend to coming to his house where he proceeded to drug us and physically and sexually assault us. This was something that was so detrimental to both of our lives, something that affected us greatly. For me, the next few weeks unfolded. I was binge drinking, using drugs, feeling the most anxiety that I've ever felt in my entire life. I felt suicidal. I felt like there was absolutely no hope for my life. I then went to the doctor, and the doctor told me that I have severe PTSD and that I'm probably going to be on anxiety medication for the rest of my life. Talk about devastating news. I had no idea the darkness that I was about to endure the next few months. A day in the life of my PTSD looked like sitting on the floor, trembling, experiencing, reliving the trauma over and over and over again. Panic attacks to where I couldn't even breathe. I felt so suicidal because I felt like I couldn't even escape the demons that were haunting me. I couldn't escape and prevent the memory from coming up in my mind, coming up in my body. I couldn't prevent it. I felt like I had lost absolute control over my life. It got so bad to the point where I couldn't even leave my house, that I was hurting my family members around me, that I was breaking the heart of my mother. It was so hard. I felt like the only option for me was to commit suicide, to leave this world. So I quit hurting my family, so I quit hurting myself. And knowing that I was going to live this way for the rest of my life, I thought, what's the point? But then one day, God showed me that He had a plan for my life. I was high in my room, and I just knew my heart wasn't satisfied. Nothing could satisfy what was breaking my heart. And so I cried out to God, and He told me to read Psalm 27. And as I read Psalm 27 and I heard the cry of David for God to meet him, for God to talk with him and commune with him, and his desire, his only desire, was to be with him. And I felt that in my heart. I felt that desire spark again, and I began weeping in the presence of the Lord. It rushed over me. Peace rushed over me. The love of God rushed over me so strongly that I got down on my knees and I said, God, will you change my life? I said, God, I need you to change my desires. I can't do this anymore. And it began a journey of hope. After that day, I began feeling alive. I began wanting to read the Word more. I began wanting to know what He was saying. I felt hope for the very first time in a long time. I felt hope in the darkness. No, I wasn't instantly healed. Yes, I was still addicted to drugs. Yes, I was still addicted to the medication the doctors were giving me. Yes, I was still broken and experiencing the PTSD, but I knew God was with me, and I knew He saw my circumstances. And He led me later, a few months later, to go to a community of women that believed in me, that supported me, that walked with me in my journey of healing. But most importantly, what I learned at this community was to hear the voice of the Lord. And now many of you may not know how to hear God's voice, or maybe you don't know if that's even real. But I'm going to share with you that the voice of the Lord is the most powerful, the most healing, the most kind, the most loving voice you will ever hear in your entire life. It is the only voice that can set us free. Now, as I was within this family, this community of women, I experienced the presence of God in my trauma. Now, when I say that, I mean we were praying in this group during one of our group times, and I asked the Lord to show me where He was in my trauma, to show me where He was when this thing happened to me. I was still bound in so many lies, so many things that I thought about God and about myself. I felt so worthless. I felt like it was my fault. I felt like I should have done something differently. Yet God wanted to speak truth into that memory. So as we were praying, God showed me exactly where He was when this was happening to me. Now, I want to share something before I go into that. My whole life, I experienced trauma. As a child, I was molested multiple times. At 16, I was raped. And so I began to believe, and I was so disassociated that I wouldn't fight for myself. At an early age, I just started believing that there's nothing I can do, that this stuff is just going to continue happening to me over and over again, which it did. And so the fact that I would fight for myself would never have crossed my mind. And so as I was praying and as the Lord brought me back to this memory, He showed me that He was standing right there next to the bed as it was happening to me. And I saw His face streaming with tears and His whisper of saying, "Jessica, my beloved, it's time to go. Get up. Kick him off of you." And I kicked the man off of me. And as I saw Jesus in this memory, I was filled with love, filled with hope, and filled with the truth that I was never alone, that Jesus was there and that He was weeping over me. He never wanted that to happen to me. Yet sin creeps into this world, sin creeps into our life to cause these destructive things. And so I began to see Jesus in a new light, that He is love, that He was there, and that I don't have to be afraid of this memory anymore. I don't have to be haunted by this memory. I can remember Jesus being there. And as we got out of this prayer time, I could literally remember the memory and not have anxiety, not have panic, not go into trembling. None of those things were relevant anymore because He came in and He brought me out of the darkness. That's what God does. That's what Jesus does, is He snatches the keys out of the hands of the demons. He snatches the keys out of the hand of the devil, and He claims what is His. He claimed me as His. That's exactly what He does. Now, I believe that those two things are the biggest keys for overcoming PTSD. Is number one, knowing you're not alone, knowing you don't have to fight this alone, and you can have a community around you, a community that supports you, that mentors you, that will fight for you and believe in your breakthrough. And the other thing, and the most important thing, is hearing the voice of the Lord. Growing your ability to hear His voice will transform your life. It transformed mine. It allowed me to live a life free of anxiety medication, free of fear, free of panic attacks, free of depression. Now I have a family. God totally changed my life. I was a drug addict. I was full of anxiety, depression, suicidal, and now He plucked me out because I pursued His voice, because I pursued the healing. And now He's put me in a family. He's put me in a mission to see women set free. And I'm the most hopeful I've ever been. And the cool thing about Jesus is it just gets better. It gets better and better and better as we grow in relationship with Him. This is my story of how God healed me from PTSD. He's able to do exceedingly and abundantly above what we think.